These shoes are banned from the NBA because apparently they have special technology which makes it significantly easier for you to run and jump. And I paid $700 for these so that I can see if it actually makes it easier for the average person to run a marathon. But before I could even take the first step, I'm gonna need to eat a lot because as you're about to see, this burns a lot of calories. I even took a photo before so I could see exactly how my body changes, but what I was most excited to see was how the shoes feel while running. I put on my shoes and headed out the door to see if I could run a marathon and if these shoes would make any difference. I immediately noticed something different about these shoes, but before I can explain, you need to understand how difficult it is to actually run a marathon. A marathon is 42.2 kilometers or just over 26 miles. And what makes it special is it's a distance that's particularly hard for people to run at one given time, especially for me. I'm just over a kilometer in and I'm cramping and can taste blood. You see, you might not know this, but I was actually born with severe asthma, which is why it's that much more important for me to do this to prove to myself that I can. Growing up as a kid, despite the frequent hospital visits, my asthma made it incredibly difficult for me to do any physical activity above an average level. For me, I never dreamed of running a marathon. Since starting my YouTube channel, I've had the chance to do some training and push myself, so I've managed to run a marathon before, but now it's been over a year, and I haven't done any training before this, so I wanted to see if these shoes were the secret to doing it all in one go. I was feeling confident in myself, but I didn't know that at the time I had already made a terrible mistake. The shoes themselves, when running in them, simply felt like a very nice shoe. They didn't feel incredibly special at first. I didn't notice myself feeling bouncy or especially fast. At this point, I wasn't noticing much difference, but then again, this wasn't the hard part of the marathon anyways. If you've ever attempted a marathon or any physical challenge in general, what you might find is it's incredibly easy at the beginning, but slowly gets harder and harder. And I don't mean by just a bit. I mean it will get so hard that it will do incredible things to your body that you're about to see. The first interesting thing that happened was around the 5-kilometer mark. Up until this point, it had been almost an hour and the run was pretty difficult. However, almost like my mind went numb, it started to get a lot easier. It went from being this repetitive thing that was frustrating to get through to this blissful moment where everything just felt perfect. Despite the harsh winds that were blowing, the world around me felt calm. And for a while, this kept up. I noticed the shoes were engineered in a way where the toe was rounded, so it was a little bit easier to push off into your next step. They were putting a lot of pressure on my feet, but despite that, were relatively comfortable. You see, the problem was when buying these shoes, there weren't many options available. Of course, that's also why they were so expensive, but the size that I had to wear was actually 2 sizes smaller than what I normally wear. The only size they had available was smaller than what I normally wear, so I'm gonna try and loosen them before they break my feet. They really hurt. Alright.
Do you have your inhaler?
No, I don't even know where my inhaler is. Let's get back to it. By this point, it wasn't affecting me too much. It just felt like a really snug shoe, but I didn't realize how much of an impact that could potentially have down the road. After another hour, I started to feel a little bit weaker. I was getting pretty low on energy, but the problem is when I was putting my body through that amount of stress, I wasn't hungry in the slightest. What I've noticed doing all of these challenges is your body always does weird stuff. It'll adapt to almost any situation that you put it in, but sometimes not in the way that you want. Right now, in an effort to conserve energy, like a light switch, it turned off my hunger. Digesting your food actually takes a lot of energy, so my body, knowing that I might be running for longer, wants to prevent that added stress. However, my body doesn't know how long I plan to run for, and I'm gonna need that extra energy, so I needed to do something to prevent that. And that's why you see, I bought a lot of junk food. If you've ever wanted to consume copious amounts of terrible food that's super high in sugar, you should definitely consider doing an insane amount of physical activity. Not only because you're gonna burn the calories, but because you almost need the calories just to get through it. So now with my energy a bit higher and the satisfaction of eating foods that I've stayed away from for a pretty long time, I was happy to keep going for a while, and I had no idea what was coming for me. By this point, I was almost at the halfway mark. Almost halfway there! I'd been running for hours and was starting to feel sore, and I knew that everything I'd done up until that point, I now had to do again. And soon it was going to be dark, so I knew it was going to get colder. And like I said, it's not like it's going to be twice as hard, it will be like 10 times as hard. This is where things took a turn, and I needed to enter a mental battle in order to get myself through. When I'd actually passed the halfway mark, I considered giving up. I had already endured an incredible amount of pain. I want to stop. And to say I had still run a half marathon didn't sound too bad. I could just quit there. I didn't have to keep going, not for the full marathon. No one was forcing me. I could change the video title or just run 30 kilometers. It's still impressive enough if I quit. The voice in my head was getting louder as every single step that I took became more and more painful. It wasn't just my feet anymore. It was my knees and my calves and my hips. And every single step I took, it seemed to get worse and worse, and the voice in my head was getting louder, telling me to quit. No one is invincible. The reasons to stop kept piling higher. I was completely alone out there. The only thing keeping me company was that voice in my head.
I want to stop.
I needed to overpower that voice.
Don't stop!
I can't keep going.
Unless your feet are broken, you're not gonna stop!
I want to stop.
You need to prove it to yourself. Prove it to the world you've got more in you.
This hurts.
Don't stop.
Holy sh**.
Don't stop! Don't stop! Don't!
After 7.5 hours, I finished the marathon. But this is where it just begins. Barely able to stand on my feet, I headed home to try and go to bed. Tomorrow, I was gonna try and prove the impossible to myself and try and run a marathon again.
I made it. Ready for another one tomorrow?
You'd probably think that was the best sleep of my life, but not only did I wake up incredibly sore, the sleep from the night before was one of the worst I've ever had. You might be surprised to know that that's actually extremely common. My body last night after running a marathon was in so much shock that for hours after I finished would stay in fight or flight mode. I would wake up sometimes several times an hour, but I didn't have time to be tired. There was a big day in front of me. I started it off like I start out every day. Just because I ran a marathon the day before doesn't mean I get to lack at the gym, because the whole reason I'm doing this challenge in the first place, it isn't to gain muscle, it's to build mental toughness, to work my way closer to becoming mentally invincible. So now I was gonna try something that I'd never done before in my life, to run a second marathon 2 days in a row.
This is my friend Paul. He's never run a marathon before, and so today I asked him to run it with me. And we're gonna race to see who can get it done first.
Despite having a really slow start, I was determined to be the first to make it to the end.
I have no idea where Tyler is right now, but I'm starting to feel pretty bad.
Immediately, it felt so much worse than the day before.
This guy's been ahead of me for a while. I can't keep up.
But even though Paul was leading by an incredible amount,
I am coming for you, bro.
I was gonna give him my absolute best.
41 more kilometers.
Update is, we passed him. He stopped for a break.
I had no idea where Paul was or what he was up to.
He passed me, but I'm coming.
All I could do was slowly limp forward with my fastest pace.
He's not letting me catch up. I've been pretty much sprinting for like 2 kilometers now.
Every single step I take on my left foot just sears pain all the way up to my knee.
Oh my god, update, I just passed him.
The back heel is like, there's something there.
Turns out I can do more than I thought I could.
But if I don't run on my back heel, then I put it on my toe, and then my right toe on my left foot is also messed up.
I've just been informed that Tyler needs to go get an x-ray on his foot.
Run is on pause. I want to make sure everything's okay before I keep running.
However, this is where things took a change for both of us. I knew my foot was bad, but it was now more painful than ever.
Your foot's bothering you?
Yeah, my foot is bothering
What's
me.
going on?
Well, I ran a lot of kilometers, and now it is hurting pretty significantly in a couple places. I've been running on this one too. It just doesn't hurt as much.
And I'm assuming for whatever race or run you did, you have been training?
No,
You just went on
I
a
just stopped and
50K
ran
run.
50K.
How does someone do that? You just woke up one day and said, I'm running 50K today?
Yeah.
What were you running before that? Were you not running?
No, it was just so much good.
Good for you. It could be a stress factor. Usually that happens with repeated use over time.
Yeah.
50K is a lot of repeated use at one time.
So after sitting down for that long, my legs are just so stiff. It hurts so bad. I think I'm done for my first attempt at a marathon.
I'm just gonna go run over to the x-ray place.
So far today, I hadn't even done 10 kilometers of the 40. I really didn't want to have to give up.
But they're not sure of the result right now as to what's going on with my foot. They said they're gonna give me a call in the morning, so we'll figure something out then.
But to risk myself any serious injuries, I knew I would have to. I woke up even more sore the next day. Now I was just waiting on a call to see if my foot was fractured. I started to hear that little voice inside again. Something was building up inside, making me feel guilty for quitting the rest of the marathon.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks so much. Bye. I just heard back from the doctor. They said they didn't see any large fractures, whatever that means, but they said not to run on it and to come back in 7 days if I'm not feeling better. So, I think I need to finish this marathon.
And this is where I channeled any bit of remaining energy I had left. Since I only did just over 9 kilometers yesterday, I still had 33 left to go. And I was gonna stop at nothing to make sure I finished. At this point, I didn't care how many hours it was gonna take or how much every single step hurt. I didn't care how the longer I ran, the more I limped, the slower I went, making the run last even longer. All I cared about was finishing this to prove it to the world that I can.
We're almost at 15K today.
And with this, I found the strength to keep going, at least for a little bit. Because with enough time and resistance, anything can tear you down. Having that bit of motivation and the energy at the beginning was great, but that motivation wears off when things start to get really tough.
It feels like my feet are broken.
I couldn't even run at this point. I wasn't even sure I could walk the rest.
You know why you do this? It's not to prove yourself to other people. You do this to prove it to yourself. You know you can do anything you set your mind to. Don't let yourself down.